Have you ever wondered where betrayal really begins? It's not when the knife goes in. It's when you saw it coming and still reached out your hand. Not behind your back, but face to face, with a smile and a choice you made to ignore the truth. Now imagine, the hand you shook was already holding a blade. We like to think betrayal is sudden, that it comes out of nowhere, sharp, shocking, unfair. But most of the time we were warned. The hesitation in their voice, the fake warmth in their eyes, the handshake that felt just a little too firm. We noticed and still moved closer, because part of us would rather be betrayed than be alone. But as Machiavelli once warned, it's not your enemies who ruin you. It's the ones you trusted to stand beside you. A handshake feels harmless. It's routine, formal, friendly. It says, "You're safe here." But that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because nobody expects a weapon when they're the one who offered the hand. You prepare for enemies. You watch for attacks. But the ones who betray you don't knock down your door. They sit at your table. They laugh at your jokes. They earn your trust, then hollow it out from the inside. You never hear the knife, because you were too busy telling yourself they wouldn't. But they did, because the most painful betrayals come not from strangers but from people we open the door for. Every handshake is a silent agreement, not just of politeness, but of vulnerability. When you reach out your hand, you're not just greeting someone. You're saying, "I trust you with my guard down." And sometimes you feel something's off. A tension, a chill, a pressure you can't explain, but you smile, you shake the hand, and in that moment you choose to let the knife in. From the time we're kids, we're told to be polite, say yes, be nice, don't question people's intentions. And over time, those little lessons become habits, then reflexes, then shackles. You stop listening to your instincts because you don't want to offend. You feel something's wrong, but you don't speak up because you don't want to seem cold. You nod, you smile, you agree, because that's what good people do, right? But here's what no one tells you. Betrayal doesn't need a villain. It only needs your silence. Every time you override your gut just to keep the peace, you pay with a little piece of yourself. And the more you do it, the more they learn exactly how to twist the knife while still looking like your friend. So ask yourself, was it really their betrayal or your permission? Because most people didn't hide the knife. You just chose not to look at it. You think being kind makes you safe, that if you're generous enough, warm enough, loyal enough, they won't hurt you. But to them, it makes you predictable. And predictable people are easy to use. They don't have to overpower you. They just have to smile and wait for you to say yes. Kindness is not weakness. But unguarded kindness becomes currency, something others trade for their comfort, not yours. They learn how to read you, what words calm you, what tone earns your trust. They know you'll forgive first, blame yourself second, and apologize third for things they did. And here's the illusion. You think you're in control, that your kindness is a strategy, that you're managing the moment. But they've already taken the upper hand, not through power, but through your permission. Because when people realize you'd rather keep the peace than protect yourself, they'll make sure you're always the one paying for it. Your energy isn't unlimited. Every yes you give is a small withdrawal. And the ones who expect you to always show up, they're not thinking about you. They're just used to taking. They don't really want you. They want how they feel around you. Your calm, your agreement. You became their comfort zone. But comfort is a one-way street when it's built on silence. And here's the cruel part. They never valued you. They valued their experience of you. The more available you are, the less they value your presence. What's easy to access is easy to ignore. You think you're being loyal. They think you're replaceable, so pause for a moment and ask yourself, who actually earns the right to stand beside you? Not everyone deserves your time. Not everyone deserves your silence. So here's a better question. Who deserves your absence? Before you can answer that, we need to ask something deeper. Why do we react this way? Why do we agree when we want to say no? Why do we let people close, even when we feel the danger? Because somewhere inside, we still believe we're safer being accepted than being alone. But that belief, that's exactly where they find their power. If this already feels uncomfortably true, subscribe, there's more coming. Carl Jung believed that every person carries a limited amount of psychic energy. It's not infinite, it's not renewable. And every time you say yes just to keep the peace, every time you ignore a gut feeling, you're not just being polite, you're spending energy you don't get back. That's why you feel tired after certain conversations. Why some people leave you drained. It's not in your head, It's in your boundaries or the lack of them. And Jung warned, what you refuse to face doesn't disappear. It waits, and it grows. The more you resist something, the more you tie yourself to it. And when you're always exhausted, you stop thinking clearly, you stop feeling, you just comply. And that's when betrayal doesn't need force. Just your silence, you become vulnerable. Not because they're powerful, but because you've forgotten how to protect yourself. They don't need to break you. You've already made yourself small to be accepted. But here's the shift. Real strength is remembering. You have the right to say no, even if it disappoints them, especially if it does. Real power isn't loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet. It's the calm decision to pull your hand back. Before the handshake ever happens, you don't need to argue. You just need to stop offering access. How many nights have you lost replaying a conversation that never should have started? Let's talk about energy leaks. They happen when you explain yourself too much. When you apologize for things you didn't do. When you stay in conversations that feel wrong just to be polite. These moments seem small, but they cost you peace. They cost you clarity. You feel foggy, heavy, uncertain, not because you're weak, but because your energy is being drained by dynamics that should have ended long ago. But when your energy is protected, you walk differently. You speak less, but people listen more. You don't chase because your presence says everything. And here's one of Jung's most powerful ideas. When your energy is guarded, manipulation fails, because people can't twist what they can't reach. Now get ready, because it's time to face the ones who drained you, the ones who smiled but chipped away at you quietly, not with violence, but with expectation. You didn't notice it then, but now you see it. Every time you reacted, they had control, and they knew it, but now you choose when to respond and when to walk away in silence. Carl Jung called it projection. You don't see people as they are. You see them as you hope they'll be. You project your loyalty, your honesty, your good intentions, and assume they'll do the same, but not everyone's like you. And the more you project goodness, the easier it is for others to wear it as a mask. They'll let you believe they're kind, as long as it benefits them. So ask yourself, are you seeing them, or just your own reflection? The most powerful manipulation doesn't come through shouting, it comes through stillness. Through guilt, expectation, and silence. They don't need to demand anything, because they've already trained you to offer it first. Your time, your help, your forgiveness, all handed over before they even ask. But here's the turning point. When you stop reacting, when you stop explaining, the game breaks, because their control was never about force. It was about your pattern, and now you're rewriting it. When you become less available, you don't just protect your energy, you challenge their comfort. Suddenly, they can't rely on your automatic yes. Your silence becomes threatening, your pause becomes power, and some people won't like that. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're cold, but what they really mean is, they can't reach you like they used to, and maybe they never should have. The modern world is loud. It rewards fast replies, constant access, endless agreement. But Carl Jung saw silence differently. He didn't see it as absence. He saw it as strength, the ability to hear your own voice before the world's noise drowns it out. Your silence isn't weakness, it's not fear, it's clarity. When you stop rushing to respond, you finally see who's real and who only loved your compliance. You stop performing, you stop playing the role, you stop holding space for people who wouldn't do the same for you. And the moment you step out of that cycle, everything changes, not because they changed, but because you did, because you chose to protect your peace. Instead of begging for their true silence is a skill. It's not just the absence of sound, it's the presence of intention. Not everyone deserves a response. Not every message needs an answer. Not every apology should be accepted. And not every hand deserves to be shaken. But don't lie to yourself. This kind of silence has a cost. You will lose people. You will be misunderstood. But what you gain is something far greater: self-respect, self-trust, and peace you don't have to earn. Here's the bitter truth. When you start protecting yourself, you will lose the ones who only liked you when you were useful. The ones who smiled at your pain as long as they benefited from it. But don't mourn that loss, celebrate it. Because those relationships weren't real. They were contracts signed in silence, maintained by your fear of being alone. But now you're choosing solitude over self-betrayal. And that's not isolation, that's evolution. Sometimes silence isn't retreat, it's revolution. And the first person it frees is you. It's time to become selective, not bitter, not closed off, selective. Who gets your energy? Who gets your presence? Who gets your yes? Because if everyone has access, No one values it, and all the insight in the world means nothing. If you don't act on it, being unavailable doesn't make you cold, it makes you conscious. You're no longer operating on guilt or fear or habit, you're choosing, and that changes everything. You don't owe people your openness. Just because they expect it, you don't owe them explanations, comfort, or access. Especially not the ones who only show up when it benefits them. You owe yourself clarity, you owe yourself peace, and you owe yourself the right to walk away without apology. Carl Jung believed that the path to individuality begins when you stop playing roles for others, when you stop performing connection, and start honoring truth. It begins when you stop shaking hands that feel wrong, just to avoid being seen as difficult. It begins when you say no, without guilt, and yes, only when it aligns with who you are. That's not rebellion, that's self-respect. And the more you follow it, the more the wrong people fall away, and the right ones step forward. Because when you stop betraying yourself, you stop attracting those who feed on it. Betrayal doesn't begin behind your back, it begins in your hand, in the smile you accepted, the gut feeling you ignored, the handshake you knew you shouldn't give. But here's the good news, you don't have to keep repeating it, you get to choose again, and this time, you don't offer the hand until you're